We aren't renting a lift to help us do this roof and the upper siding until we know we can use it and we have the remainder of the trim in hand. And I don't even have the proper trim yet to do the windows and doors, much less the corners. So, the bandboard trim and the soffit material are what I have, so that's what I'm working on. I should be doing soffit or corners first, and I just know that when I finally do get around to installing the corners, I'm going to pay for doing this out of order. Still, we need to move forward on this, as even zip can't sit exposed forever. Let's go.
So obviously we're, delineating kind of the first floor, which means all of this gobbledygook will come up and hit a flat. And then it gives us a great platform to work off of, a nice level band board here. And so these will all be really fast locations for us to do our siding onto our lap side. We'll mark off a ladder up in a couple of places, and then we're going to take string line and just snap, and that will give us a really nice top point for each board as we go up. And then up higher, the top is going to have board and batten, and so that will be really easy too, just because we'll be able to run that up from a nice level location up to the soffit. So I'm not saying it's smart, I'm just saying it's possible. So a couple of details here now that we have, almost 2/3 of these band boards on. I don't like this. Trying to bring it around the corner and then butting into that spot, and then see the height difference. This is just, it's not as thick of a board by any means. And I think I'm gonna take those out. There's one on the other side over there as well. I'm gonna pull them out, and then we're just gonna go up that side with the long siding. And then, it'll dead end right up in there. I won't take that around the corner either. We'll have a small trim board, possibly, that will go at the top there, up against the fascia. The soffit? I think that's the right word for when you fill the ceiling. Yeah, that word. And it'll go right up against there, right along the bottom of that board. But other than that, these windows and this door are all lower. The beams above those two locations are larger than the beams on the sides in the equivalent locations, and pretty much anywhere else in the house on the exterior envelope. And because they're larger than the rest of the house beams, that meant that those windows and door had to sit down further on the wall than everywhere else. And so to try and make it look as good as I can, we're gonna just omit the band board going across that location, and instead just do standard window trims all the way around. And I think that will still look really nice, and it will it'll kind of carry this one side will be that way. One of the hardest things we're going to have to do with siding is honestly going to just be dealing with this, and it's going to get fudged because all of these step ups, they're not the same from this side to the other side. And partly that was landscape, and partly the hill has not only a slope but an undulation side to side to it, and partly it was the concrete contractor being a doofus. And so even within each of these flats, the surface wasn't really that great as far as level goes. And so we're going to be working with trying to correct for that in order to get this to come up nicely to the top, and that's just going to be marking it off string line.
I felt like this was a great idea when I started it, and I think under the right circumstances it would be a great play. You save a bunch of time on a cut like this where you can knock out multiples at once, and the problem I didn't realize was that the pallet of sheathing wasn't evenly sitting on the stickers below, so there was a slight cupping effect in the middle of the stack, and this led to the last cut I did being not so straight. Not bad enough I can't still use them, but the middle group was a little short on one side and the end a little long. I also should have taken the waist strip out of the middle, not off of one side. That would have given me a factory edge on that first set. And that cut came out pretty good, but not as good as factory, and it is usually best to preserve the factory edge wherever you can. Oftentimes it's treated, better or different than the center of the board.
On top of the ladder, and then I'm going to catch it at the other end.
Yeah, that'll help me get it set, and then I'll use it to feed in. This step here is close, not quite the same, but close to the same height.
Hey boys, be sure to stay up there, okay? No closer than that log, the top of the hill.
Closer than this?
Yep, that's as close as you get. It's going to be noisy, and there's going to be dust. Okay?
Back up with Turkey, please. We got one more board to cut. Good
So
boy.
loud.
Yeah, back up with Turkey. Thank you, Pumpkin. So one of the things that is required here is the zip tape acts as a head flashing, and so you don't have to put that traditional metal strip across the top of the window. However, you do need to leave a 3/8 inch gap according to the LP installation instructions, and that's over windows and doors on the top, and also over things like if you're laying over top of brick or something like that where it's not more siding. In between siding it's only 3/16, but so on the sides here is 3/16, there and there, and also on the bottom actually it's 3/16 is what they call for. I mean, we're using white trim, so it will stand out because that's what's going around all the windows, and so you're not supposed to caulk that. The idea is that if water is behind, it has to kick out the window, and so if you jam that full, then it's just, if there is water behind, it's stuffed in the board. If I weren't under, right under this eave, and you can see like I've got very little room left, just a little bit, to space it off. Down there it's like a 1/16 to an 1/8, 3/16 in the middle, and then here it's more like 3/16 to a quarter. But the theoretically you'd have a flashing up there. Any horizontal you should take a Z flash down. I'm omitting it because I'm under the eaves, and I'm just not concerned about that being an issue here. And it's going to get, the top is going to get caulk sealed with the soffit, so it would have to be coming down from even further up above on here. Essentially this would have to be leaking behind, and that's going to get zip taped, and then it's going to get a flash, and that's going to get taped. So I'm just not worried about that possibility under any of the eaves. That's the intention I have. The other thing to note here is that I am putting up this band board, this rim board, whatever you want to call it, this oversized trim
for above the windows that runs all the way across. I'm putting that up before I put up the soffit, and that you could have done it the other way. The installation does show putting up the rim first and then caulking the vertical between both the fascia and your whatever that trim might look like for you. Maybe it would be a smaller one, but I don't know that it really matters. So this is something I wanted to talk about here. Obviously I'm not getting this today because I can't reach it without putting a ladder down and bracing it into the roof sheathing here, or without having our lift that we're going to rent and put right in that location. And so I am just not dealing with that right now. But what we're going to be doing here is of some concern to me, because you've got your framing and this has to join, right? You have your roof sheathing and that's got to join in with the soffit coming down. I spent a fair amount of time trying to find an example where someone had done it on the internet this morning, and I didn't. I'm sure that there is one out there. So if you have a suggestion or an idea, have done this before, experience, please share in the comments and let us know what you did or what's common practice if you're a framer. I don't even honestly know what to call this. We've just been calling them mini roofs. They're a flat simple roof underneath a pitched gable, so a double gable. I don't know. I do also want to mention while I'm up here that we're dead ending all of these boards with enough space to have a gap and then drop our corners, and that's purposeful. I am waiting on these pre-built corners. I honestly don't know if we're even going to get them. It's been a real pain. The supplier, the middle party between LP and my lumber yard is they've just been absolutely horrible, and they're looking for somebody else to fill that need since it was ordered and just not included. But at some point along the way, if they can't figure it out, I'm probably just going to have to build them, which sucks. But that's one of the reasons I went with LP, was for things like that pre-built corner and with the blocking. But LP is just not as present on the West Coast as they are the rest of the country, and they've just been having a hard time getting it sourced. I might try like I did with Zip and reach out to a regional manager, sales manager, and see if they can help. When I did that with Zip, they were amazing. They got us the bunks that we needed for the roof and to finish out the walls when there was a shortage, and everybody was saying they couldn't get them locally. She knew exactly where there were pallets of them in Oregon and Washington, and got one arranged to come to us. So maybe LP will do the same. Note for myself:
Look, I've said it before, there's a big difference between what I'm choosing to do here and what I would like to be doing. There's just 5 to 6 feet between our house and the property line and a bunch of step downs, so a lift, it just isn't going to get in here. We do have scaffolding, and if we felt like we could swing another platform and a long scaffold, we would have loved to have done that, but we only really were going to need 4 sections of scaffold, and a big part of this project has been dialing back on extra expenses. Given that the cost of everything skyrocketed between the time that we closed on this property and when we actually started building, we went from pushing the envelope of what we could afford to needing to cut costs and find some extra income just to meet our goal of 0 or at least minimal debt coming out of this build. We'd originally looked at house plans that would have cost us less in materials and been more about adding on, in particular, a longer, shorter house where we would have had a full basement that we could finish off down the road. But one of my strengths that also happens to sometimes be a major roadblock to our success is that I always swing hard, and so when I miss, I can really miss.
So I don't know if this is going to work, if this is the right way to do it, but I'm going to try just not taking this out of the package. And this roll is almost 40 inches long. I think that a workable spacing would be 4 inches. That gives me 10 divisions of this roll, roughly speaking. And so we're going to start with that. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's the longest blade I have on this puppy. Not an amazing blade, so we're going to give this a shot here, and hopefully it doesn't mess this up. this goes underneath the siding. In particular, it goes underneath the upper siding. So they make material like this, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's out, but it's essentially, it's a mesh, and it sits on the wall, and you staple it on, and it holds your siding material out from the wall. And you know, it's pretty expensive stuff for a roll like this, which 39" by 61.5. That's fairly standard, it seems like. $200, $180, up to $330, I think I saw for one variety. And a lot of them have a 6mm and a 10mm or a 12mm. Obviously, those are much more expensive. So this is a 6mm. I just want it off the wall a little bit for airflow and for water purposes. That should be sufficient. And if you roll this out and then staple this all on as one big sheet, you're going to cover almost no area. You're going to, you know, it'd be like 5, 6, 7 of these to do the same space as one of these cut strips. So that's what we're going to try doing.
That's what we ended up with. They're far from exactly accurate measures. Some strange shapes to them, but they're all at least 3, if not 3.5 or 4, and a few of them are like 4.5. And parts of them maybe a little bit less. But anyways, they will work just fine. Anything over 3 inches, I think, is going to be more than adequate. Let me show you how we're going to use them. 540 series LP down lower and up here, evenly spaced below to here. So perfect for us to install board and batten with vertical siding, also from LP. And their specifications are to do fasteners every 6 inches. So to my mind, if I'm going to work this material this way, that means I'm going to need one up here at the top, and I'm going to need one every maybe 12 inches or so, and then that should keep it off of the wall adequately for airflow and drainage going down. I think if I went any further apart than that, then it probably would give an opportunity for the nails to suck it all the way to the wall. I'm just going to install this guy. Whoa, that was a little bit too much. That's fine, let's cut off the extra. So one thing about this vent material being on here that I really like is that you've got, you know, this outwards deformation caused by the flange of your window. And the vent material is about the same depth as that flange. And so I shouldn't have to do any inset cut on the trim or shimming on the trim, because this is going to be caught on that plane of the trim, and it's just going to flush as you go down. So that's something that's pretty useful as far as, you know, just getting that application.
Time to work on the house right now is pretty much broken up with a lot of other things going on. It's part of why I haven't dove into a larger project. Next time, we'll be getting ready for batch painting the rest of the trim. So subscribe, stick around, and see our solution of cheap and easy sawhorses for a large space on our next video. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.